Welcome to Pound for Pound, the MMA podcast. And now, coming to the mic, your host, Jalen Walker.
Welcome to Pound for Pound, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Walker. We're back, guys. Episode 9, Overeem versus Sakai. Oh, man, so much to get into. A lot of news. We'll get to most of it. We're not going to get to everything that's been happening in MMA because there's a ton going on. It's a fever. But, tonight, latest event, UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas. It's a strong heavyweight battle against Alliston Overeem and Augusto Sakai in the headlining role. Oh, man, this card is filled. Some recognizable names, some fresh faces. You know, it's not the best card, it's not the strongest on paper, but it's cards like these that we often tend to see those nice sleeper hits and those KOs. So I'm excited. All right, let's go ahead and get into some news. All right, first of all, huge alert. Brock Lesnar is a free agent. Yes, Brock Lesnar is officially open to negotiations with any organizations. That's including going back to the WWE, of course, but we really don't want that. But, this week it was revealed that UFC heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar was again a free agent. Having to not re-sign with the WWE, this announcement led to plenty speculations with both the UFC and Bellator showing an interest in signing Lesnar. However, opinions differ on whether Lesnar will actually return to unscripted combat, and chief among the naysayers is the last man to beat Lesnar in a real fight. In 2001, Alliston Overeem knocked him out. Everyone knows that with that knee to the body at UFC 141. Pretty much that's why Lesnar retired from the sport, to be honest with you, and he did return. But since then, Lesnar has been flirting with the idea of returning to MMA, but I'm not sure. I don't think he will. I think he'll sign with WWE again. He's too old. He's 43 now. I think WWE is more safe for him in the sense of long-term injuries than coming back to the UFC, especially fighting someone who we'll get into who we think he's going to fight. But Overeem told TMZ, he's like, I don't think he's going to come back. He's 43 years old. To be honest, I don't think he's going to come back. The last time he came back, it was a debacle, so I don't think he's going to come. I was wrong about the last time, though, because I predicted the same thing. It actually did become a debacle, but we'll see what happens. Man. So there's not a lot of faith in it. But still, if he does come back, who will he fight? That's what people really want to know. But I think Dana wants him to fight Jon Jones. There's such an appeal for his return, you know what I mean? And that'd be such a huge fight. Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar. Like, who wouldn't watch that? You know what I mean? There could be a rematch with Overeem possibly, depending on the fights tonight with Brock Lesnar coming in. If he gets signed. Overeem, when he was asked about it, he didn't reject the idea, which was the thing. Like, he's made it clear that he's not that interested in that match, being because he's not even signed yet, Brock Lesnar. But in part, he firmly believes it won't ever happen. That's it. Overeem said, I beat him up. So if somebody wants a rematch, it would be him. I already did it. Why would I chase him? Who cares about Brock? Which fans? He's not coming back. He's 43 years old. It's over with him. He's not coming back. God, he keeps saying not coming back. Last time he waived the testing for him, and still he got into trouble. It's been a debacle. He's now going to come back, listen, and if he does, all hats off to him. But I don't think he's going to come back. So Overeem's that could be Overeem's kind of scared. I don't think Overeem's scared of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar got destroyed by Overeem. So I think we're good in that sense. But I think it would be wonderful for UFC if Brock Lesnar signs back, even if he only fights 2 or 3 fights, 4 fights tops. It'd be great to see him back before he officially retires from combat sports, being the WWE or being UFC. Or if he goes to Bellator, I would still watch it. That's a great organization. There's nothing wrong with Bellator. I think that would actually work better for Bellator because that would help their viewership go up a lot. You know what I mean? They didn't get what's her name? Paige Van Zandt. She went to bare knuckle boxing, so they're looking for heavy hitters. There's some good guys in Bellator, but not some of the best. All right. Next on the agenda, Thiago Santos versus Clover. The fight is off. Texiera tested positive for the coronavirus. It's not going to remain on the card, short notice. Um, so, yeah, I think that's right. I think they're looking to rebook the Clover versus Thiago Santos fight for October 3rd. Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. But in the meantime, their main card has been replaced with Angela Hill versus Michelle Waterson, which will now be the main event. And yes, it will be 5 rounds and not 3. So that's going to be interesting. Angela fight every week, and Hill, man, she hasn't fought in a while, but because she's been doing commentating and broadcasting, but she was fighting every weekend this year. Or it was crazy, man. It was crazy. So I'm excited for her. She gets her main card fight. Sucks that it was on a fluke, but she got to take what she can get. That's super exciting. Now on to some more fight news. I'm not going to name all the fights coming up, like Covington, Woodley. We know about those. But Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie, October 17th. Super pumped about this fight. Can't wait. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's finally going to happen. You know what I mean? I've been wanting this fight again for a decent amount of time. I love Brian Ortega. The Korean Zombie is an excellent athlete and an excellent mixed martial artist. So we're going to have a wonderful fight that night, I think. It's going to be a lot of kicks, a lot of submissions, a lot of strikes. It's going to be a bloodbath if it doesn't end early. But last with the news, huge news, the Masvidal Diaz fight. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. Masvidal has respect for Nathan Diaz, right? Who's ranked 13th. Masvidal is ranked Diaz is ranked 13th. Masvidal told Diaz, "I respect you. I'll run it back with you," and that's what he wants to do for the BMF belt. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But when you look at it from a career standpoint, Masvidal, he needs to call out Leon Edwards at number 3. You know what I mean? He doesn't need to go back down and fight Diaz. I understand it's a respect thing. Yeah, but that's out the door. You know what I mean? You got to get the title, Masvidal. That's your whole point. You just lost your chance. You come and beat Leon Edwards. You're in prime placement to fight again for the title after Usman fights whoever's up next. You know what I mean? Like, it's too risky to go back down and fight Nate Diaz for a BMF title just because you respect the guy. I love Nathan Diaz, but that's stupid. That's just not smart. They're thinking about that for January, which I'm going to watch it, Diaz versus Masvidal 2 for the BMF title. I'm excited about it, but would I rather see Masvidal fight Leon Edwards? Yes. It would be a much better fight, I think. Numbers-wise, I don't think it would do super well pay-per-view because unfortunately, a lot of people are unaware of Leon Edwards and who he is because he's such a humble sleeper fighter. But I think it would have been much better for Masvidal to take his chances and go and fight Leon Edwards at 3 instead of Nathan Diaz at 13. I think that wasn't smart. Leon Edwards commented on Twitter. He said, "Could have fought number 3, yet you choose to fight number 2. Eventually, this pussy will fight me. I'm all for the money fights, but watching 2 journeymen go at it again when it wasn't even competitive is a joke." And this is the BMF laughing face emoji. So I think he's a little upset. I will say he might be a little salty, to be honest with you. I mean, I think because Leon Edwards knows he's not going to fight Usman yet, so I think he needed that fight to prevail his status. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I hope it all works out. I hope it is. I don't know. I hope it all comes together, to be honest with you. And I hope it all levels out. I hope everything fits into places. I hope Leon Edwards gets his chance at the title, which he super deserves. And I hope Masvidal. See, Leon Edwards could just fight somebody else, give Usman a second, give him a break or whatever. He wants to take a vacation or whatever. And just have Masvidal and Edwards fight 2 separate people, and then if they both win their fights, fight each other and then Usman. But that's a long ways down the line without a title defense for Usman. So we'll see. Very interesting. There's a lot to talk about in that aspect, so we're not going to get too deep into it. But yeah, I want to move into the Contender Series. Week 5 results. Man, I was not expecting this night to go like this. I'm not going to lie to you. This was an awesome Contender Series. First off, we had Tucker Lutz take the win over Chase Gibson with that unanimous decision. Decent fight. He could have done a lot better. He did not get a contract, unfortunately, Tucker Lutz. But it's very interesting to see how he worked around the octagon. He does have potential. Hopefully they bring him back. They are doing Contender Series in November, and a lot of these fighters are going to be coming back. So that's very, very exciting. A great fight for Tucker Lutz. Now, one of my favorite fights of the night is William Knight. This is the second time on Contender Series. First time he was on Contender Series, he did not get a contract, but he got a developmental program with the UFC at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. He's been working with them for a year, working with some of the best people in the game. He came out, won TKO, elbows on the ground and pound at 2 minutes and 23 seconds of round 1 against Cody Brundage. Great fight by William Knight. He got his contract. He's going to be in the UFC, and he's ready to fight ASAP, and I love that about him. And I'm super pumped to see him, and I'm super happy for him because he has put the work in. He didn't quit. He didn't walk away when he didn't get the contract last year. He took the developmental program, listened to everyone, listened to what they said, and now he's a great, great fighter. He was a good fighter before, but he's an excellent fighter now. Really excited to see what he can do in the UFC. Another great fight, Ronnie Lawrence against Jose Johnson. Ronnie Lawrence took this decision. It was a unanimous decision, 3 rounds. Wasn't the greatest fight. It was entertaining, but you know what I mean. He got a contract, I believe. So it was a good fight. I'll give him that. I'm not gonna talk bad about it. Ronnie Lawrence deserved that. He got it. But on the Jimmy Flick versus Nate Smith, man, Jimmy Flick came out of nowhere. This man got on the promo talking all this. I didn't think he was for real. I didn't know what was going on. He was struggling here and there in the first and second round, and then he came out in that third round and put Nate Smith in that arm triangle and submitted him at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Oh my God. That was a beautiful arm triangle. Very excited to see what he can do in the UFC. He got a contract. He was super pumped about it. But yeah, super excited about Jimmy Flick. I think that him and William Knight were the best fights of the night. And then on the Malisic, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, Malisic and Dennis Bazukja, wasn't the best fight. Melsic took the fight in a 3-round decision. Nothing else really to say about that. Neither one got a contract. But going back to that Jimmy Flick Nate Smith fight, Nate Smith did get a chance. He's going to get a chance to come back in November. Dana White said, Jose Johnson, I think, and then Cody Brundage, I believe. I could be wrong. And then Chase Gibson might get a chance. We'll see. There's no reason not to let him fight again in November if they do Contender Series again. Contender Series is the number one insert into the UFC at this point. They're finding incredible talent. It's becoming the new Ultimate Fighter, and I think it's a great way to give some of these guys a chance that wouldn't be seen in any other way, especially with COVID going on, just to give them the chance to still achieve their dream and be in the UFC and make money, provide for their families. I think it's awesome. So, yeah, Dane, I think it's a great idea bringing it back in November. So, super excited to see some of these guys fight again. But we're not done with this season. Week 6, next Tuesday at 8 p.m. on ESPN+. All right, let's go ahead and move into this fight card for tonight. Really excited. But before we do that, if you haven't checked it out, you can get some pound for pound merch. Link in the description. Takes about a week to get to you. Some interesting stuff. Everything's 0% profit on markup, so I'll leave that up there for a little bit. But yeah, if you want a shirt, anything, go ahead and go check it out. Much appreciated. All right, onto this fight card. Keller versus Natividad. I want to pronounce his name correctly. I got to give him his respect. He's in the UFC now. All right. So, replacement fighter in the new UFC with Kevin Natividad. Natividad. Sorry. Very interesting last name, how it's spelled. A replacement fighter for the new UFC steps in due to a corner man with COVID. So the thing was, Brian Keller Um, he was originally scheduled to fight Ricky Simon. Yeah, sorry, I had everything backwards. Yeah, he was originally scheduled to fight Ricky Simon, but then a member of Simon's team tested positive for coronavirus. So obviously Ricky had to step back. But Keller is 21-11 as a cage fighter, 5-4 in the UFC. So not the greatest, but not the worst. You know what I mean? So he lost via unanimous decision to Cody Stratman at UFC 250 on June 6th. That was his last fight. But he brings plenty of activity with 4.48 significant strikes per minute and 1.21 takedowns per 15 minutes in the octagon. So not too bad. He's gone 2-1 in his last 3 fights, including his wins over Osborne, and Hunter Azor. But his only setback was against Cody Stratman in June. So he's on the rise. He hasn't made that many mistakes. I think 4.48 averaging is not the best for significant strikes. I mean, it's pretty much average, but he needs more takedowns, you know what I mean, coming into UFC. That's the game. Leg kicks, takedowns, and series of punches. That's what I keep seeing a lot of. But he's going to be making his 3rd UFC appearance tonight. So we'll see what he can do. But Kevin Natividad, a.k.a. Quicksand, we're going to go with Quicksand from now on. He's making his MMA debut with a 9-1 record. He's won the last 5 in a row, including a Legacy Fighting Alliance fight, the LFA. Great organization. Not amateur, but it's around that area. He KO'd Kyle Estrada in the 2nd round for his 6th career stoppage on July 17th, which is pretty impressive. He's fighting out of Arizona Combat Sports, so decent crew. He's 27 years old. He's fought as low as 135 pounds before. That's super interesting. But here he'll be at 145. So there's a lot going on. He had an interview with a local news station because he did not expect this to happen. You know what I mean? So it just came the opportunity. But he said, honestly, it's still a little unsure. I probably won't feel like it's real until I get to the venue. It means so much to me because I'm living my dream. This is everything, and I've been waiting ever since I started training back in 2011. It's crazy to me. It still doesn't feel real. I was in a car with my fiance at the time, and I was also on the phone with a bunch of my old friends from Hawaii back in high school. Somebody just started a group chat, and then they all video called us, and we were literally all in chat at the same time. And then my coach tried to call me, and then he told me the news. So super pumped for this guy. Hopefully he comes out here and makes his stand. He seems very excited. Young fighter at 27. But yeah, this could be a very interesting fight. You never know what some of those guys making their debuts, what kind of energy they're going to come with. And I'm excited. I'm actually really excited about this fight. That's going to be a good fight to start the night off with. All right, let's go on to the next fight. Thiago Moises versus Jolene Turner. Super technical fight this would be. It's a pair of lightweights. And yeah, I mean, Thiago's 13-4 and 2-2 in the UFC. He didn't have that many bad fights. His losses weren't that bad. He's from Sao Paulo, Brazil. He has 9 stoppage victories in his career, and he picked up his first submission in the promotion in his last fight. It was that Achilles lock on Michael Johnson on May 13th. So that was pretty impressive. I know Dana White said something about that and said that was very interesting how he got into that. It was. If you haven't seen it, go back. It's Thiago Moises against Michael Johnson, May 13th. It was Achilles lock. It was beautiful. But he's averaging 2.68 strikes per minute and 1.1 takedowns while in the UFC. So not the best strikes, but we'll see what he can do. Hopefully he can learn from his last submission that he had and maybe develop a nice Brazilian jiu-jitsu game on that ground game. So we'll see. But he made his MMA career debut on Tuesday Night Contender Series on August 11th, 2008, and he fought Gleidson Moraes, and he won that fight by knockout. And that's what got him his contract to the UFC. But yeah. Sorry, one second. But yeah. He made his debut in 2012. Over the next 6 years, he fought in Brazil and the U.S., earned a record of 10 wins against 2 losses. He was an RFA lightweight champion before he signed to the UFC. So yeah, he had a good career in the amateur, pre-pro, semi-pro area. So he just needs to get his kickstart in the UFC, I think, and just get the ball rolling. But his opponent, Jolene Turner, he's 9-5 in MMA, and he's 2-2 in the UFC also. But he was also in the Contender Series. But 8 of his 9 wins are by KO. So that's not bad. It's not bad at all. He had a second round win over Joshua Kulubao on February 23rd in his last outing. He's a stand-up specialist. He's averaging 5.9 significant strikes per minute. And at 25 years old, like, not too bad to be in this position, you know what I mean? He's a southpaw volume striker, but he does his best work pop shotting the outside with that stiff jab, you know what I mean? He has some crispy combos. He can get into the pocket and he can lay those harsh hooks. So I think that's where he's gonna stay. But he does have that 77-inch reach, which is it's a 7-inch. Dang, I didn't know it was that 7-inch. I think it was 6. It's 7-inch advantage over Thiago Moises. But yeah, it stands to reason that controlling the distance is excellent weapon, man. You got to keep it. You just got to keep it close and in the pocket. And if they do try to push back, that's what you got to use your reach for, to pop them a couple times, just to like try to stun them on that breakaway. But yeah, they call him the Tarantula. He's proficient with sharp kicks and has a quite bit of a snap to those body kicks, which can be damaging, especially if you follow him up with uppercuts to the abdomen. And when he's in the octagon, you know, he has 8 knockouts of his 9 wins, like I said, making him a candidate for a knockout king, to be honest with you, if he keeps this going, you know what I mean? He's only had 1 fight that he's won that hasn't been a knockout. But interesting fight. Thiago Moises is minus 195 on the betting odds. Jolene Turner is 160. But yeah, interesting fight. It's gonna be a good lightweight fight. All right, on to welterweight. We got some interesting stuff here. I'm not even gonna pronounce his last name, but Zelem versus Michel Pierre. Very, very interesting weigh-in. Let's just say this: Zelem, he came in to the weigh-in. They got close, and then he kind of pushed Michel Pierre in the face and kind of threw him off balance. Someone held Michel back. I don't know. It was a little much. People are hot-headed. People have been locked up. People are ready to fight. So I'm not going to get too upset at them, but it's the UFC, man. You got to be professional. There's no need to be slapping people in the weigh-ins. You're just looking like a weak punk at that point. Just wait for the fight. Do what you can do when that bell rings. You got 15 minutes in the octagon with him. Save it for then. That's all I got to say about that. But Dana White was asked about the event because he just stepped back after. Dana White just took a step back after he pushed him. And someone asked him about it. And he said, "I'm getting old, guys. That was a quick one. That was on me. They started getting aggressive, going towards each other, but I didn't think it would escalate to that quickly. I blew it." Dana White said that after the weigh-ins. This is the fight game, man. That one's on me. I apologize. I shouldn't have let it happen. Can't really blame Dana White. Come on. But Michel Pereira, if you don't know who this man is, please go and YouTube him. This man literally will knock people on the ground, stand over them, do a flip in midair, and try to stomp on their face or their chest or whatever he can. He does flips in midair. He'll kick you with a front flip, a back flip. This dude is amazing, an amazing acrobat. He's always very exciting to fight. You know, he's 23-11 in MMA, but he's only 1-2 in the UFC. But he's around because people love to watch this guy. Like, if he keeps losing, who cares? I just want to see what he can do, because one of these days he's gonna land that backflip or kick or whatever you want to call it, like, and it's gonna be insane. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna be insane. Like, this guy literally flies and is aggressive, and he's full-fledged in some of these situations. Like, he's not just doing a backflip and then, like, you know what I mean? He's actually, you just gotta check it out. But his last bout against Diego Sanchez in February, he was disqualified for an illegal knee by referee Jason Herzog in the third round, which sucks because he was winning that fight on all the scorecards. But it is his fault, but at the same time, it was close, that illegal knee. But the 26-year-old is from Par, Brazil. He's averaging 3.04 significant strikes per minute with a 51% accuracy rate. You know what I mean? He has 2.0 takedowns per minute as well. Decent stats. The 51% accuracy, it doesn't really show when he fights, to be honest, because he's so flamboyant with his actions. You don't know what's hitting, what's not. But yeah, he is a man with bricks for fists and tree trunk legs. That's what I would say. You know what I mean? He has plenty of power in both. And there's evidence of that by he has 10 KO wins out of the UFC. But he likes to work from the clinch where he can be rough with his opponent with elbows, knees, and hooks. You know what I mean? But he's an exciting athlete. And like I said, if you get lucky, we might see some wild backflip or something. So, but the one thing I will say before I move on, he cuts a ton of weight for fights. Cuts a ton of weight. So it's not the best for his gas tank, but he is a gas guzzler. But we'll see. I don't want to put it down, and I don't want to. We'll see. That's all I'll say. But he has lost his last 2 fights, so hopefully he can turn that around. But yeah, Zelem Amadeva, I think that's how you pronounce it. Deva, something like that. We're gonna go with Zelem. He's 8-2. He suffered both losses without a win, joining the UFC at 25 years old from Russia. He has 8 of his wins on the independent circuit and have come all via knockout. In the last 3 fights, with Fight Night's Global Promotion. So interesting. I really never heard of Fight Night's Global Promotion. I will be looking into it here to see if they have any more talent, depending on how he fights, to see what they have to bring. Since, you know what I mean, when you're a small organization, or I don't know if they're small, I don't want to predict that, but when you're an organization like that and you have a fighter that's successful enough to come out of your organization and go to the UFC or even the Bellator, people are looking at that fighter. And if that fighter comes out and he's amazing, I mean, the UFC matchmakers and Dana and all of them are going to start looking over there more and see who else they have. So it is a lot of pressure on Zelem. He's averaging 3.69 strikes per minute, and he has 1 takedown in total in his last 2 UFC bouts. So interesting fight we have coming up in the welterweight. Michel Pierre is negative or is minus 118, and Zelem is negative 103. But yeah, we're gonna see this. This is a do or die fight for both men, I think, for their UFC contracts. So the stakes are high. Stakes are very high. All right, now on to Ovin St. Pierre, or Peru. Sorry, this fight got canceled on August 22nd, so now we're back. Very excited. I am very excited. I love OSP. He's an exciting fighter. He's earned a performance bonus in the last 3 of his fights. That means that they give out 2 to 3 $50,000 bonuses per night, right? For every event. He's earned 3 of them in his last 3. No, he's earned 1 in all 3 of his last fights. That's pretty good. Stipe Miocic is on the same level at that point, but like, that's impressive. Like, that's really impressive. I mean, he's a light heavyweight and he's 24-14 in his career, and in his UFC career he's 12-9. But he's got 11 KOs and 8 submissions in his career. He also fought Jon Jones for the belt in 2016, which we know what's happened. But he lands 2.6 significant strikes per minute and 1.27 takedowns per fight. But when he does land or get you on a mat, it's often with power and fury, man. It is intense. I would not want to be under OSP in that situation. His last outing was a split decision, lost to Ben Rothwell in Jacksonville during the UFC return to action post-COVID-19 in May 13th. So I do have to go back, sorry. His last 3 victories were promotion bonuses. So his last fight, he did lose to Ben Rothwell. My apologies. That was the UFC's return to action post-COVID-19. But OSP, he's a powerful striker with a very good submission game. He actually he made the Von Flue choke his own personal weapon of choice in the octagon. And I mean, many want to rename it the Von Peru choke for OSP, just because he's been using it so much and he's been so effective with it. But yeah, with 11 of his 24 wins coming via knockout, in addition to another 8 of them being submission, he holds the distinction of being the knockout king to me right now. In this card, in this situation, if we're looking for a knockout tonight or a submission, I think it's going to be OSP. On Alonzo Meddingfield, his opponent, Meddingfield's 9-1 and 2-1 in the UFC. You know, he's still an up-and-comer. He lost his last belt against Devin Clark via unanimous decision. You know what I mean? That was June 6th, and that was the first defeat of his career. But, I mean, the first fight of his career to reach the 3rd round, and he showed some conditioning issues during the fight, so hopefully his cardio gets improved for this fight. After dominating his first 2 UFC opponents with the first round KO, I mean, Clark landed more significant strikes, 79-39, and had a takedown that put Meddingfield on the canvas for the first time in the promotion. So, I mean, Clark, he did manhandle him there. So, but we'll see. It's a new day. It's a new card. But all 9 of Alonzo Meddingfield's wins are via stoppage. 8 of them are by knockout, like I said. He's a fantastic striker. He lands 3.75 strikes per minute with a 47% accuracy. But on the other hand, he's absorbing the same amount of strikes. So that's not the best. He's an orthodox fighter. He has that stiff jab. He's got that good takedown defense. I will say good takedown defense against lesser opponents. I will say that. He has a clear cardio issue though, and that was made clear in his last fight, like I said, with Devin Clark. But that was his first fight to go longer than 5 minutes and 32 seconds. So, interesting to see what he can do. I'm going for OSP. That's going to be a really good fight. Really, really, really good fight. And then on the Overeem versus Sakai for the heavyweight main event. Oh, sorry. OSP, he's at plus 110. Alonzo Meddingfield at minus 134 for those betting odds. So, it is favoring Alonzo Meddingfield. All right. The heavyweight fight of the night for the main event, Overeem versus Sakai. It's a battle of the heavyweights as UFC legend faces off against the young fighter with an impressive record as number 6 Alliston Overeem faces number 9 Augusto Sakai as the main event of UFC Vegas 9. So, the future Hall of Famer Alliston Overeem, 46, 18-1. He's won the last 3 of his 4 fights after knocking out Walt Harris on May 16th in Jacksonville for the UFC's return. Man, I'm pumped for Overeem tonight. I am pumped. You know, he's a former Strikeforce champion. You know what I mean? There's nothing really we need to say anymore about him. He is a legend. Overeem, he's a monster. You know what I mean? We'll get into that. Let me give you some of his stats first. I don't want to skip. Getting a little too excited. But at age 40, you know, the Dutchman, he has 3.66 significant strikes per minute and 1.4 takedowns per 15 minutes in the octagon. His first fight was in October of 1999 and has fought in the UFC alone 18 times. Overeem is an extremely well-rounded veteran. He's famous for his kickboxing, his grappling, and his heavy hands. Yes, this boy's a monster. Even though age and fight wear have taken a bit of his speed and his chin, you know what I mean? It seems like he's begun to inevitably soften, and he can still deliver a good beatdown over top-level competition. And we've seen that over Walt Harris. Walt Harris was no joke. Walt Harris almost knocked Overeem out in that first round. Overeem rallied and came out and put him down. It was a wonderful fight. But here's my opinion. If Jairzinho Rozenstruik hadn't opened up Overeem's lip in that last 15 seconds of that fight when his lip was hanging, I think Allister would have won. All 3 judges had him ahead of the scorecards. I know we shouldn't judge a fighter by a loss, but in this instance, it showcases his resilience. He took some big shots in that battle, and And in his years of experience, it just sucks because if he would have won that fight, he would be at top. He would have won his last 4 fights. He would be at the top. He would. So it kind of sucks. Jarzino Rosenstruck, he came up short in his previous fight. Oh, we don't need to get into that. But yeah, Alliston Overeem, he has 24 knockdowns, and he has that round 2 knockout against Walt Harris, like we said. But on the other hand, Alliston Overeem, he is developing a glass chin, and we have seen it a little bit. He is able to get out of it, but if he gets knocked down and someone capitalizes on that, as in Sakai, and he doesn't let him get back up and get out of it, he's in trouble. That's the only thing I will say about Overeem. But like I said, Overeem's a seasoned grappler. He gets his best work done in the clinch. He can grab you. He can grab the back of the head. He can launch the knee straight up the middle. He hasn't lost an ounce of power, just softened his chin a little bit. So Sakai will need to be on his toes. But we'll see. Sakai's a good fighter. I mean, Sakai, he's a small underdog with a big heart. He wants to beat Alliston Overeem because he wants that shot at Stipe for that belt. That's his main goal. I mean, that's everyone's main goal, but he's determined to get that belt. He's 15-1-1. He's 15-1-1. It includes 11 knockouts and no submissions, and he's 4-0 with 2 stoppage since joining the UFC. He joined the roster via knockout on Dana White's Contender Series. We're going to be seeing this a lot more and hearing this a lot more. A lot more of these fighters on these cards are going to be coming from Dana White's Contender Series, and it's wonderful. I think it's a great opportunity, like I said earlier. But yeah, back to Augusto Sakai. With just 1 career UFC takedown, he averages 5.45 significant strikes per minute while absorbing 3.89. But he has 80% of takedowns attempts against him. So Sakai, he's an orthodox workhorse with a fairly high output rate. So that's going to be good for him. Like I said, if he wants to put Overeem down, he's going to have to stun him and get on top of him and not stop. Like, not stop for anything. That's the only way you can take him out. He has a persistent jab and decent combos, but he lacks that collar starching and that one-punch knockout power. So volume aggression are a great way to compensate. Sakai does have 11 knockouts to his credit, but most of them are results of punching and knees and such forth. But he also has shown an inclination to take breaks during rounds. You know what I mean? And it was during one of these wrestling contests that we saw him get outstruck by Andre Arlovsky. It was the fight against Sakai, and they controversially took it away from him in that split decision win. I do remember that. That was awful. But Sakai has the fury. He's a great attacker. Great. He can throw the hands. He really can. And I think Overeem's going to have his work cut out for him in that aspect. And it's going to be an exciting fight. I would love to see Overeem win this fight. I'm not going to lie. I want to see him get his chance for the title, even though he was the Strikeforce K1 champion back in the day. He has not touched gold in the UFC. So a little unfortunate for him. I hope this works out for him. Hope he wins this fight. But onto these picks real quick. Keller versus Natividad. I'm going to go ahead and take, I think, Brian Keller on this one, the 34-year-old. He's been ready for this fight. He was supposed to fight Ricky Simon. We know what happened. Simon's team got COVID and his teammates. But yeah, I think he's going to take out Kevin Quicksand. I think this kid, Kevin Quicksand, could do good, but he needs to get seasoned. This is his first fight in the UFC, and it sucks because it was on short notice. And I think Brian Keller is going to capitalize on that. On to Thiago Moises versus Jolene Turner. I'm going to be taking Thiago Moises, the 25-year-old. His 9 stoppage victories. I think that sticks out to me. And then he had his first submission in his promotion in his last fight. So super excited about him. I think Jaleen Turner is a great fighter. But again, Only thing that's going to help him is that reach advantage. But I think Thiago Moises is going to be able to get in that pocket, and he's going to be able to take over with the grappling and stop Jolene Turner's grapple game and that clinch work and those strikes. And he's going to put him on the ground, I think. So we're going to go with Thiago Moises on that one. All right. This is a difficult one because I really like Michel Pierre. But Zelem, he seems like a tough opponent. And a lot of these Russian guys coming into the UFC, man, they are no joke. Like, not trying to be stereotypical or anything, but these Russian guys are no joke. So, unfortunately, as much as I like Michel Pierre, I think I'm going to have to go with Zelem. Amadov. Zelem Amadov. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I think he's going to take it. Michel Pierre, I think he's going to be too flashy. But if Michel Pierre does get a couple of those kicks off into the body, I think it's going to be very interesting. So we'll see what happens. OSP versus Manyfield. Interesting fight. Alonzo Manyfield is favorited, which is very interesting. Being OSP, being how effective he is in that clinch game and that submission game, and not just to say, he does have knockout wins. So we can't underestimate OSP. But Alonzo Manyfield, to his benefit of the doubt, is a strong competitor, 100%. This kid can and will do damage. He's 9-1. So I am gonna go ahead and go with Alonzo Manyfield in this one. But if OSP does win, we could see that Von Fluke choke or the Von Prue choke, as people want to call it now, as I mentioned. But we'll see. Well, very exciting fight. This fight could be just as good as the Overeem Sakai fight. Very, very high potential for OSP and Alonzo Manyfield in the sense for getting their name out there. So really, really excited about this fight. But yeah, so Alonzo Manyfield is going to beat OSP, I think. But if OSP wins, it's going to be by Von Fluke choke. Final fight, the heavyweight fight, Overeem versus Sakai. Man, this is a difficult one. Because I don't want to just think of and be biased for Overeem just because I've seen so much of him and I know what he can do. But I do have to take into account his glass chin at this point. And it's nothing to his fault. It's nothing training, nothing he could do. Same thing happened with Chuck Liddell, but it happened a lot faster with Chuck Liddell. What happened with Chuck Liddell was he started losing fights. And he started getting knocked out sooner and sooner. And the thing was, you can't tell a fighter like Chuck Liddell you're done. He's not going to say, hey, I'm done. Someone has to step in and say, hey, you're not allowed to fight anymore. And that's what Dana had to do. Chuck Liddell got to a point to where he was just getting knocked out over and over. And I'm scared, and I don't want I don't want to see that happen to Overeem. It's only happened once or twice so far. But I need him to knock out Sakai tonight and not get knocked out to prove to me that he still has a chin. I really need that. I really, really need that because I call it the Chuck Liddell syndrome. I really don't want him to get the Chuck Liddell syndrome. I really don't. I don't want him to be forced to get retired. I want him to be able to fight at least till he's 43, 44 and get that title, and I want him to be able to hold it because I think Alliston Overeem is one of the most underrated. He's not underrated, but he's looked past a lot. You know what I mean? They know he's there. They give him good fights. He makes the company money, but he's there. He's Overeem. You know what I mean? So, on that note, against Augusto Sakai, even though he's that small underdog with a big heart, I got to take Allister Overeem. I really do. There's nothing else around it. He's a phenom. He's a beast. His knockout and that comeback, that rally over Walt Harris was phenomenal. Never count him out. You know what I mean? He's a wonderful fighter. But yeah, Allister Overeem, and Allister Overeem is actually favored at -175 against Augusto Sakai at +140. So it's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a really, really good fight. I'm excited. I'm excited for all these fights tonight. But yeah, there's really not that much else to talk about with these fights. I will go ahead and let me see. I will go ahead and talk about just a few more events and call those out so they can be in your guys' mind. Um, Next week, as I said, UFC Fight Night 177, Michelle Waterson against Angela Hill. And then after that is when we have the UFC Fight Night Covington versus Woodley. That's September 19th. So 2 weeks from today, Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. That's going to be a really good card. You got Derek Miner on that fight, fighting TJ Laramie. TJ Laramie's from the Contender Series. So super excited about that. You got Shirley Gain and Mackenzie Dern on this fight, Ronda Marcos. So stack fight. And then UFC 253 is September 26th. 3 weeks from today, Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa for the middleweight championship of the world. And that co-main event, we got Dominic Reyes versus Jan Blachowicz for the co-main event for the light heavyweight title, and that's the title Jon Jones just vacated. So that night's gonna be awesome. This whole month of UFC is gonna be great. Tonight's gonna be great. Contender Series on Tuesdays. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you. The fights start tonight. Sorry about that. The fights start at prelims start on ESPN Plus at 6 p.m. So in about 45 minutes. And then at 8 p.m. the main event starts on ESPN Plus also. So you guys make sure you're tuning in. But yeah, exciting fights tonight. Contender Series Tuesday. And I'll see you guys next Saturday. This is Pound for Pound, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Walker. Thanks, guys.